What's up, everybody? Alex Scott here with jamplay.com. Welcome back to Bass Guitar 101. We are all the way up to week 5 this week. For those of you just joining us, welcome. We are doing sort of a beginner overview of this wonderful, fantastic instrument here, the bass guitar. For those of you guys who are tuning back in with me, thank you so much for heading on back. Definitely appreciate it, and good to see you guys again. So we are in, like I said, week 5 here. Very excited. We've been rolling right along. We sort of started clear back in week 1 with, going over just the parts of the bass, the bridge, neck, fretboard, all that good stuff. We moved into learning how to pick open strings with our right hand, then how to incorporate our left hand. And last week was definitely a little crazy. We were talking about scales, right? And our scale patterns, major, our minor scale, and our dominant scale. Right? So this week is going to be sort of a continuation of that. We're going to introduce a couple more new concepts. We're going to play along with a really cool backing track, as per usual. This time it's kind of like a R&B funky kind of a thing. It should be a good time. We're going to learn about chord progressions today and kind of what that means. And we're also going to learn a little bit about how chords work together and how scales and chords are related and all that kind of stuff. Just a quick note for you guys, if anybody has any questions at any point in the course of this whole lesson, it doesn't even have to be specifically about what we're talking about, just about the bass in general, music in general. If you guys have technique questions about gear, even just questions about like music in general, what it's like to be a professional musician, or how you can get involved in your local scene, really, we're totally open. Any and all questions. I've got Captain Chris on the helm over here. Just at any point, if you guys think of something, stick it over there in that chat box, and Captain Chris will get it happening, get it up on the screen for us when we get to our question and answer a little bit later. So yeah, stick it in there. Don't hesitate. No, never any stupid questions. That is for sure. So, anyways, chord progressions. What exactly is a chord progression? Well, as one could guess from the name, it's basically just a series of chords that all happen sort of in a line or in a row. And that's sort of the basis for a song. Songs aren't always chord progressions. Sometimes they're what we call vamps, which is where you just have one chord throughout an entire song. And sometimes they're what we would call a riff, which is, a particular pattern that you play on your fretboard, and the guitar player and bass player might be playing that together. We're going to get into those things, but for today, we're talking about chord progressions. Now, a chord can be defined as 3 notes in a scale, all played at the same time, okay? So if we remember back to last week, right, we had our major scale, and we're starting on our 3rd fret A string, okay? So right here, that's our C, which forms the basis for our C major scale pattern. And if you guys remember from last week, it's 3rd fret A string, 5th fret A string, it's a D, 2nd fret D string, which is an E, 3rd fret D string, which is an F, 5th fret D string, which is a G. We move back up to our 2nd fret G string, which is an A, 4th fret G string, which is our B, and then we get up to our octave, which is a C again, okay? So there we go. That's our C major scale. We also had our minor scale, starts in the same place, 5th fret again, and our 6th fret there on the A string, instead of moving to our D, right? Move to our D, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 6th fret on the D string. Then we move up to our G, and it's a 3rd fret, 5th fret on the G string. Now, last week we were also talking about thinking of these scales not in terms of all these notes or frets, but thinking about them in terms of numbers. Our major scale being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. right? And we can differentiate our major scale from our minor scale by picking certain notes in that sequence and flatting them, or moving them down a half step in pitch. So instead of, right, which is our C major, 1, 2, 3, our E natural, we play an E flat, that 6th fret, which is 1 half step, 1 fret down. That's what we mean when we say flatting. So when we say our major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and we want to differentiate that from our minor scale, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1, right? We're just taking individual notes in that major scale, moving them down a half step to create our minor scale. So, chords, you typically use the first, the third, and the 5th note of your scale. So a C major chord, I'm going to play it up high so you guys can really hear it. We have our C. If we move up our C scale, C, D, E, that's going to be the 2nd note of our chord. Keep going up, that's the 3rd note, 4th note is our F, 5th note is our G. So when we say 1, 3, 5, that makes a C major chord, okay? Now, if we want to play a C minor chord, we say, okay, well, we know our minor scale goes 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. We're taking our C, but it's not the E anymore because it's that flatted 3rd. It's the minor 3rd. So we take that, move it down, half step to an E flat. Hear how somber and sad that sounds? It's our minor chord versus our major chord, okay? So that's kind of what our backing track is all about today, is we've got a movement of different chords that all sort of go together. Because what you'll start to learn, and we'll talk about this a lot, I'm going to lush this concept out a lot more as we kind of go along in the weeks, but what you're going to learn really quickly is that you actually have multiple different types of chords within a given scale, okay? So in our C major scale, right, you have your C major. Well, if you take the 2nd note, the 4th note, and the 6th note, suddenly you have a minor chord. But it's not a C minor chord, it's actually a D minor chord. Okay? You can do the same thing with starting on your 3rd note. Your 3rd note, your 5th note, and your 7th note. That's another minor chord. Oh, excuse me. An E minor, okay? These are all notes that are part of the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's just a pattern, sort of a line you can draw through your scale. Your starting point is, there's your C. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, C major. 2, 4, 6 makes a D, because D is your lowest note, right? Skip a note, 3, 4, skip a note, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 6. It's a D minor chord. E, starting on our 3rd note of the scale, 3, skip a note, 4, 5, skip a note, 6, 7. We get our E, our G, and our B. Makes an E minor chord. Our F, we can go up and start on the 4th note of the scale, right? 4, 5, skip a note, 6, skip a note, 7, 1. Get an F major chord, okay? You can do that all the way through the scale. So you have all these different chords that sort of exist as subsets of the scale that you're playing. Again, I know this is probably just a little bit complicated, but the more you learn about bass, the more that you play, these patterns will become really apparent and sort of very readily accessible to your mind as you sort of progress through your playing journey. This is really what I'm talking about is kind of the basis of it's the cogs that run music. It's the stuff kind of behind the curtain that makes all your favorite songs sound the way that they do. So today's our kind of our first step into that. We're going to be playing in the key of A. Okay, so everything is going to be centered around the 5th fret on our E string, which is our A note, which is the same as our open A string, just like that, right? So that's going to kind of be our center, and we're going to be playing through a series of chords and playing very simple, starting with half notes, which we've done before. Today we're also going to be introducing quarter notes, which are pretty easy. If you guys remember, a whole note gets 4 counts, 1 whole bar or measure. A half note gets 2 counts, or half of a bar or measure. A quarter note, much as you might assume, it gets just 1 beat. So this is a note that you're just going to hold for 1. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter notes are half the time of a half note and 1/4 of the time of a whole note. Such, they are called quarter notes. So let's go ahead and pull up our notation and take a look at what we got going on here. So there's kind of 2 halves to this backing track. The chords and the sounds are going to stay pretty much the same, but there's sort of, you almost think of it like a verse, right? Like we'll call it the A section of our song, right? Which is a little bit mellower and a little bit quieter. So that's going to be our top bracket, right? Where you see all just half notes. So we're starting 5th fret, E string, our A, okay? A, hold for 2 counts, 1, 2, and we move over to our 7th fret on our A string, okay? Then our next measure, we're going to move down to our 4th fret on the A string. Now you'll notice there's these letters above our notes on the staff, right? And it starts with A. These tell us what chord that we're outlining. Okay, A. So we're playing an A right there, and then we're playing the 5th of an A. That's an E, is that note. So our same finger pattern that we learned for our C major scale, right? We can move that pattern up 2 frets and over a string and play an A major scale without even thinking about it. It's the exact same pattern. So let's count up the scale till we get to the 7th fret on our A string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th. Okay? There's our first measure. Our second measure, we're moving to a C sharp, which is going to be your 4th fret on your A string. Okay? And you'll notice we play the same kind of a pattern. Now, if we were to take our C sharp scale, which again, it's exactly the same hand pattern as the C major scale, as any major scale is on a bass. So you don't have to sit there and think, oh, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Except this C sharp's a little bit different. If you notice, there's a lowercase m right next to that C sharp. That means it's a minor scale. Okay? So we're starting. There's our 4th fret, A string, our C sharp. Let's count up our minor scale until we get to the next note, which is going to be our 6th fret on our D string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's a 5th again. 1, 5. That's our second measure. So our first measure, A, E, which is the 5th of A, the 5th note in the A major scale. Then we move down to our C sharp, and we play the 5th of the C sharp, the 5th note in a C sharp minor scale. Now, move down. We're going to be on our 4th fret D string to move to F sharp minor. Okay. Then we're going to play a C sharp again, because C sharp is the 5th of our F sharp. We're just playing it an octave lower. So instead of playing it here like that and following the same pattern where we go up a 5th, up a fifth. Instead of going up a fifth, we go down to the lower note, because that leads us to the last bar, which we're going to move our hand up a little bit, and we're going to go to our 7th fret on our E string. This note is a B, and it's the 2nd note of an A major scale, which all this stuff, it's all part of an A major scale. Okay? A, 5th of A. C sharp, 5th of C sharp. F sharp, 5th of F sharp. Then we move to our 7th fret, E string, play our B, and then back up to our E. And these two chords resolve back into A, and the whole thing can loop. Okay? So that's the first sort of section of the song. We're going to play that twice in a row with the backing track. So we're going to boom, 5th, C sharp, 5th, F sharp, 5th, B, E again. Boom, boom, C sharp, 5th, F sharp, 5th, B, E. Once we've repeated that, we're going to move down to our 2nd bracket, right? Which it's still the same chords, but we've added a couple of notes, and this is where our quarter notes are going to come in. So you'll notice in our first bar in the second half, we start on the A again, same place, 5th fret, E string. We play the E, but now there's another note there. There's a 5th fret, okay? So what we're doing here is we're just pulling another note out of this A major scale and using it to walk down to the next chord. A, E, walk down to our C sharp. Play the same thing, right? C sharp, then the 5th of C sharp. And then we're going to repeat the C sharp because it leads us into our F sharp. Okay. Then we're going to go back down, play our C sharp just like we did before, and then add that D again to sort of reference that we just played it a second ago. And now we get to a bar of all quarter notes, okay? And this is just going to walk up this major scale pattern that I've been talking about. Starting on our B, we're going to go, that's our 7th fret E string. We're going to go 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, all on the A string. And that makes, as you guys might already recognize, there's the first bit of our A major scale. Well, we're just starting it on a B. 1, 2, 3, 4, A. And this section also repeats on itself. So, start it over. Going A, E, A, C sharp, boom, boom, F sharp, B, walk up the major scale, A. Just that easy. So, again, as we're playing through this stuff, always just, again, and I know I've said this 1,000 times, you guys are probably going to get totally tired of it. But it's really important. Make sure that your hands and everything really is as relaxed as it possibly can be. I know it takes some exertion to fret all these notes. That's definitely okay. What you're trying to avoid is any unnatural tensing of your muscles. That's what's going to create bad muscle memory. And as you're learning how to play this instrument, especially if it's your first time on an instrument, your body is whatever you tell your body's going to believe. What I mean by that is, if I played in this bizarre way and then continued to play like that, I would, even though it's wrong and it's uncomfortable and it's would end up being harmful to my body, I would teach my muscles that that's how they're supposed to play bass. That's the muscle memory they'd get. So we have to concentrate very, very consciously on keeping our hands relaxed, both hands, keeping our arms and shoulders, everything as relaxed as it can be, while still getting good, clear tone out of each note. This is going to be tricky, especially as a beginner, but just, really focus on, you don't want anything strained, you don't want anything to be really tense, you don't want anything to be really uncomfortable. And if you notice fingers doing anything wonky or weird, just stop, relax. Find your sandwich, like we've talked about, right? Our little sandwich. Make sure that that's our left hand, and our little relaxed walking man. That should be our right hand. Always. That's where you always start. If you ever find yourself you're trying to play something and you just can't move your fingers fast enough, or they start to tense up, slow down. That's why we've included this exercise at 3 different tempos in the supplementary materials for this course, so you guys can start at a very slow tempo, work on it until you can get to a medium tempo, and then a fast tempo. So again, guys, if you guys have any questions about anything I'm talking about right now, whether it's the theory or the technique, or even totally unrelated stuff like gear, different kinds of basses, questions about just the world of music in general or the music industry, please, please, please stick them over in that comment section. We got Captain Chris standing by. He's going to put your questions together. We'll get them on screen here in just a minute. So yeah, anything you guys might be wondering, stick it over there. He'll get it over to me, and we'll have a little two-way convo here in just a minute. But before we get to that, let's go ahead, look at our notation again one more time, and I'm going to pull up the backing track for us, and we'll go ahead and play along with backing track, and you guys can sort of see and hear how this one sounds once we get all those notes in there. Let's give it a shot. Two, three, four. Here's the F sharp. Here's our B, E. Repeat the first line. E. Oops. Moving on to the second line. E. Walk down. F sharp. Here's our B, walk up, and repeat. B up to the E. Now we're back to our first line. C sharp, F sharp, F sharp, B, E, second line, walk on down to that C sharp, F, B, walk up to the E, A. Now there's that last walk up, and end it with a big A. Alright, there we go. I actually goofed up a little bit there in the first half, if you guys notice. Even the pros make mistakes. It's okay. So yeah, there's our little first chord progression. Now this is as much to get your fingers working as it is to illustrate a lot of the concepts that I was talking about, just as far as looking at the relationships between these little pairs of notes and identifying that, okay, each one of these is a little scale, but really they're all the notes that you're playing, even though you're moving through these different chords and through this chord progression, all the notes that you're playing are still a part of where you started, which is just this A major. So it can really help to sort of simplify things in your head and break things down when you're looking at learning a song, for instance, and you see a series of chords. Once you learn all these different little patterns, you can start to look at big complex pieces of music and say, okay, well, yeah, there's all these different chords and all this stuff. It looks very confusing, but really, I know, because I know these patterns, that this whole thing is really just, a G major scale or something like that, something really easy. So that can help you when you're trying to tackle something or trying to learn something, instead of stressing out and trying to follow all these different little things. So that can be really, really intimidating. It definitely was for me when I was first learning about music, where it's like, oh, it's an E, and then it's an A, and then a C sharp minor, and then an F sharp minor, and then a B minor, and then an E dominant. It's so much stuff, but really, once you learn the patterns and you learn the structure, you can look at it and go, well, yeah, but it's all really just this one scale. So it makes it much easier to think about and sort of allows you to take off, sort of bite off easier pieces, so to speak. So there you have it. There's our backing track for today. Now, practice along with that. Again, over on the Jamplay website for our full subscribers, we have all these backing tracks at multiple different tempos so that you guys can play along with them, as well as you can download all that notation that we're showing on screen. There's also guided practice videos where I talk about a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now, sort of recap it for you, and play the tracks right along with you at a couple different speeds and sort of do a speed challenge kind of a thing. So definitely go check that out as you're practicing. All right. Well, hopefully you guys have shot some questions over. Do we have any questions in the box yet?
We actually do not have any questions yet. Kind of a quiet group tonight.
All right.
Or this afternoon, I should say. So, yeah, if you've got questions, as Alex said, it doesn't have to be related to the material tonight. It could be anything about music or bass that you want to know about. Just go ahead and type it in the chat there, and we'll get them answered.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. I love having a two-way dialogue with you guys. So, please, again, not just this material or anything. If you guys are grasping this and playing right along, that's awesome. Great job. But anything at all, if you're curious about different kinds of basses or different amps or different, technique things outside of what we're talking about today, or more stuff about music theory, if that's what interests you. Stuff about the music industry, really, anything is. I love to chat. I love to talk. So anything you guys may have.
And just a reminder for everyone: if something occurs to you during the week that you want to ask while you're practicing, there is a thread on the forum now for all the live events, and there's one for Bass 101. And feel free to type your question in there, and we'll get it answered next week. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Read those during the week, and we'll get them answered.
Yes, definitely. Go over there to those forums, and we're all here together over there in that chat box. Tap it on in. We'll get it up on screen, and we'll have a little convo. So in the meantime, while you guys are thinking of some questions, we'll just pull up this backing track again and play along with it one more time. And this time I'll try not to mess up. Alrighty, here we go. And 1, 2, 3. Remember, those quarter notes get one count each. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half note. Quarter, quarter, half. Quarter, quarter, half. Walk, up. Back to that first line. Second line. Quarter, quarter, half. Remember to keep those fingers relaxed. I do like the end of that one, that sort of ambient guitar that trails off. That's fun. I always have a ton of fun making these backing tracks for you guys, so hopefully you enjoy them as well. There's our exercise for the day. And, relaxation, like I've been talking about, very important. Always focusing on the notes being nice and clean. We don't want any buzz, any gross, weird sounds. You want to make sure that all your fingers that you aren't using to play are free and clear of the strings. I know I Often I'll see beginning bass players, their pinky will go either a little bit crazy, or they can have some issues with their pinky and ring finger on their right hand, sort of interacting with the strings when they don't want them to be. So always making sure that you got those retracted in a nice, comfortable manner. Right? And just, making sure we have clean contact across all of our notes. It looks like we might have a question from somebody.
We do have a question from
Excellent.
Boondock Saint 408.
Hey, Boondock. Good to see you.
And the question is, what makes a jazz song sound jazzy?
Excellent question. What makes a jazz song sound jazzy are what we call upper structure voicings. What that means is basically, so I was talking just a little bit ago about a scale, right? Well, in jazz, what they do a lot of the time is, when we make a chord out of that scale, play it up here so it's a little easier to hear. There's our C major, right? Well, that's just a major. I can play a major 7, and I can add the 7th up into that. Okay, so now instead of just having a 3-note chord, we add a 4th note into that chord. Now, you get really jazzy and you start adding, you take a scale, and instead of just saying, okay, it's from 1 octave up to, or from point A up to the octave, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? You don't stop there. You treat the scale as 2 whole octaves. And you can change notes in that upper octave of the scale and add them on top of the chord. So you can play a major down here, and then you could add any number of notes on top of it. I know it's crazy to do on a bass. This is usually something they do on piano and guitar and other chordal instruments. But it mainly just has to do with, you take your normal chord, and then whatever scale that chord is working in, you go an octave up, and you start playing around with putting other notes on top of it. Like my favorite one to play on bass is take your G, okay? Everything that I'm doing up here is just an octave above what's down here, so it's easy to follow. So if we take our G major, or actually, let's do a G dominant scale. 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1, right? We can move that up here to our G up here. Well, I know a G major, a little bit better chord playing position here. There's our G major, right? Well, I know if I have a dominant chord, I have that flat 7 in there. Okay, now we have a G dominant chord. If I want to play a sharp 9, which is a very jazzy chord, again, I look at my whole G major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or G dominant scale, 6, flat 7, 1, and then I keep going. 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. Because we know our G starts here too. Okay? So a sharp 9, the 9 is really a 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, octave, or 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just continues the numbers up. So we find that 9th scale degree. And just like when we flat something, we move it down a half step. When we sharp something, we move it up a half step. So that's a great example of a jazz chord. Now it sounds a little bit weird and just like that on its own, but if I were playing you can kind of see how it would work in context. So yeah, it has everything to do with just making your scale bigger, making your chord bigger, adding more notes, and sort of messing around with tension and dissonance and all kinds of fun stuff. But that's generally when you hear a song that sounds jazzy, it's because it's using big chord voicings like that. 6th voicings, 9th voicings, 11th, 13th voicings. And if you're a piano player or a guitar player, this applies a lot more to you than it does to bass players, because we're always down here playing the root of the chord, and they can go off and fill in all the fun stuff. But yeah, that's basically what makes things sound jazzy, quote unquote. Big, more complicated chords that have a little bit more color and stuff going on than just your normal major chord. So there you have it. A brief primer into jazz theory. Which, if you're interested in that stuff, coming out at some point soon on the Jamplay website, I have an advanced course, and I go into some jazz and more modal theory that'll help you learn a little bit more about that kind of stuff. So, excellent question, though. See, that's what I mean, guys. It doesn't have to be about the lesson today or even anything necessarily super beginner. If you guys are curious about something, even if it's an advanced topic, I always love to try to sort of break it down a little bit and make it easy to understand and have a conversation. So, yeah, anybody else jumping in? Doesn't look like at the moment. Well, let's go ahead. Let me pull up the same backing track at a slightly faster tempo, so you guys can try and play along. If what we were just doing feels comfortable now, we'll play this guy just a little bit faster. That was 80 beats per minute. Excuse me. Oh, goodness. That was 80 beats per minute. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 100 beats per minute. See how that sounds. And please, definitely throw some more comments over there in the chat, or some more questions, rather, over there in the chat box while I'm playing through this, if you guys want. And we will get to them in just a moment. But let's go ahead and hear how it sounds at 100 BPM. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Repeat the first line. Second line. Walk on down. Second line again. Walk on down, walk around, walk back up and Alrighty, so there you go. There we have it at 100 BPM, just a little bit faster for you guys. Kind of a preview into what I was talking about just a bit ago with these guided practice sessions that go along with this whole course that you can access on jamplay.com as a subscriber. We go through each week, and there's sort of a compendium video where I sort of recap what we're talking about today, but then also I play through at 80 beats per minute, 100 beats per minute, which is the faster one we just did, and then there's an even faster one at 120 beats per minute that you can play along with, and I sit there right with you and play along with you. The video is set up to give you time to get ready and count you in and all that good stuff, so we can sort of jam right along together. So, ton of fun. I definitely recommend going and checking that out. All right, last call for any questions? No? All right. Should we? What do you think, Captain? Should we play through the thing, or? All right. Well, it looks like we are about out of time, anyways, which is all right. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the lesson today. Again, all the backing tracks, notation, guided lessons, all that stuff is available over at jamplay.com. So if you're not currently a member or a subscriber, definitely, I would highly, highly recommend going there, checking it out, because there's tons and tons and tons of amazing bass lessons. I was actually just on there myself. There's a whole beginner's course with Billy Sheehan, who's an incredible bass player. He's quite well known in like the prog rock world. So just so much cool stuff over there. at Jam Play. I know we've got some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline as far as events and stuff goes, so definitely look out for that. And yeah, without anything else, yeah, we will see you next Wednesday, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern, totally blank, 3 p.m. Pacific. Please come back, keep jamming along with me. We've got 5 more weeks to go. We're about halfway through, so if you've been here since the beginning, awesome job. Thanks for hanging in. And yeah, I'm Alex Scott, Jam Play. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you next week.